Hi, and wow, that was a great segue to this session from Danielle. Thank you. I couldn't have planned this any better. The stories you just heard about creating additional support for a product launch lend themselves perfectly for this brainstorming session. So I hope you were listening because the creative solutions from Tandem really do translate well across our industry. Hi, I'm Aimee Jose. I work as a diabetes educator at Steady Health, a diabetes virtual clinic here in California. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm passionate about helping people understand how to manage their diabetes. And as a diabetes educator, I'm exposed to a wide variety of teaching tools. Some are really good. They're simple, they're clear, they're engaging, they're easy to follow at just the right comprehension level. But frankly, many fall short, which is a lost opportunity to build a great relation with your customer. You know, we're lucky to be working at a time with so many new tools and ideas to communicate with. Unfortunately, I don't believe our industries fully embrace these opportunities. And this is the purpose of today's session. We hope to get you thinking about new ways of sharing information about diabetes. Anyone here recognize this mind-blowing artwork? It's the Pink Panther book, circa 1982. In fact, it's my very first book about diabetes. It was sort of my welcome to the club gift when I was first diagnosed. Some pretty frightening visuals. Oh, and highly engaging too. So much so that it really wants to make you jump in and learn. Fast forward 25 years, more highly engaging manuals. But now at least we have high gloss covers. Oh, and maybe even a few CDs in this pile. What are the chances that your computer system could actually run those CDs when you received them? 50-50 at best is what I would guess. But really, just look at the pure quantity of material one needs to learn here. Granted, it's learning content for multiple products, but the sheer amount of pages to get through is daunting for anybody who's learning how to use a life-saving device. Imagine how excited one is to receive a shiny new toy and then realize what they have to master to make it work successfully. Gosh, my blood sugar is already rising just from the stress of figuring this out. Well, in 2006, a research study was actually done to find out exactly how much people use these manuals, and it was titled, "Why Don't People Read the Manual?" The results found that 58% of the participants said that manuals were physically hard to handle and used descriptive words like bulky and cumbersome. So, advancing from those thick, detailed, cumbersome manuals, we now enter an era of more visual learning. But with this comes lots of disclaimers and small text that nobody reads. Yes, this is in color. Yes, a photographer was hired. Yes, they've broken down the process into 3 steps. No, this is not what the tummy of a person with diabetes looks like. But overall, this is better. For some learners, perhaps. Think about how else this could be improved upon. And just so you know, this is a live tutorial on the Omnipod website right now. Videos. From static pages to videos. Videos are great for visual and auditory learners. They're welcoming, they enhance viewer knowledge and understanding, and they can break down some pretty complex processes into simple how-to steps. Here's a great example of a how-to video which goes beyond text learning. Hannah Klingen records herself changing her pod. While this exact technique's not advocated by Aimee, it shows the power of real-world learning and that non-text hack.
We're going to go ahead and remove the pause adhesive backing, so it's just the paper tabs. Just going to peel them off like so. Obviously, here's where the cable is going to come out. So I usually face mine downwards like this because for me, I can pinch up a little bit more skin the farther down my arm I go, but like up here, it's harder to pinch up as much skin. So, but you can obviously face yours whatever direction. You can do it up or you can do it down. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick it down right there. And then we're going to press down all the adhesive going around the pod.
This is just so much more comprehensive than a pictorial we showed earlier. Notice how Hannah walks people through the steps while also explaining what she's doing. This appeals to both auditory and visual learners. She shares tips that other viewers might find beneficial, like placing the pod pointing down on her arm so she can get a better pinch. And for many people, just seeing somebody else like them try something new is empowering. It's sort of the, if she can do it, I can do it. So there are hundreds of similar videos out there currently. Why do you think? Well, it's because those big manuals don't work. And as you just heard from Tandem, video tutorials for Control IQ are an exciting step forward, a new chapter of video learning. This is an example of forward-thinking educational material. Here, Tandem's pulled together a group of interactive training videos for T-Connect and culminated them in a traditional playlist. It's kind of like a best of list for learning how to use T-Connect. Tandem takes advantage of the playlist feature to organize the like videos, making them easy to find. Another great example of an interactive tutorial is by Pharma, is Mankind, actually. They have a really interesting, intriguing video entitled Working with Your Pharmacy that explains how to fill your first prescription. Not something you traditionally think you'd need to explain to somebody, but Mankind's doing a really nice job of trying to lower the bar for product access by empowering users how to navigate this very complicated world of medication access. Next up, infographics. I love infographics. Well, when they're used properly. Too often, they try to communicate way too much on a page, and then the purpose of a simple image is just lost. Infographics are beneficial at so many different levels. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. They speak to different learner types. They grab your attention, if well done. They span the spectrum of comprehension and reading abilities. And as an educator, that's always my goal, is to teach at a 5th grade level of comprehension. So you can see why I'm biased towards infographics. They serve as conversation starters. They're a great way to highlight tips or tricks, and they're really great for moving a learner through concepts step by step. This is an example created by Kelly Schmidt, and it outlines how she hacks her Dexcom G6. Think about it. What catches your attention first? Is it the color? Is it the lack of color? Is it the size of the font? Is it the spacing of the text? Well, this entire layout's carefully thought out to get your attention, all while effortlessly teaching you something. And here's one that was published in the Wall Street Journal. What's so impressive about this infographic is that it explains an incredibly complex topic to the general public. They've not had any exposure to this topic before, so it really has to be bulletproof. What's interesting to me about this is the lack of color used. Some smart thinking on the designer's part, as this image can easily be transferred to traditional media like newspaper or magazines with a low printing cost. The use of the Bluetooth waves is also interesting as it actually serves two purposes. First, the obvious, the system relies on Bluetooth communication, but the not so obvious is that the waves are the visual cue to guide the reader through the story. This is a great example of how sources outside of diabetes can sometimes create the clearest explanations because they're not caught up in the diabetes bubble. Sometimes a fresh or just unbiased approach can be beneficial not only to outsiders, but also for people with diabetes. So, fast forward to some truly interactive learning. We call this the gamified approach, something that's gotten a lot of hype recently, but it's still in the early stages of exploration with regards to learning efficacy. But clearly we know that when people do something, they learn better. So let's take a look. Here's an example of an interactive quiz where this was actually made by our DIY looping community, and they designed it for a much richer learning experience. This looping quiz is a great example of providing context around an answer. It just doesn't give you a grade. You got it right or you got it wrong. Even with the right answer, a thorough explanation is provided. and the explanations written in a way for the average user to understand. At the bottom, there's a web link that's also included, and this will open up a window and give the individual another opportunity to learn. So do know that for some people, the amount of information here might be too much. But the fact that you can go back to a window that has a link in it will give you the time to find the right opportunity to sit down and really study the material. So it's got a lot of really interesting benefits to it. And here's an example of how a pharma company leverage technology to create an interactive learning module. This is Tandem's new model that it was created for pump users wishing to upgrade to the Control IQ system. Everybody who was going to be upgrading was required to go through this module in its entirety before completing the remote upgrade. I'm going to play it for you and then I'll come back.
Let's go through the steps of how to program a sleep schedule. Please select Options to learn how to set up a sleep schedule. To access the Activity menu, tap Activity. Please select Activity on the screen to continue. To program a sleep schedule, tap Sleep Schedules. Please select Sleep Schedules shown here on the screen. You can configure
All right. So this example is similar to training tools that you may have seen in other industries, such as an online traffic school or even doing some HR training modules. You actively have to tap on things in order to advance to the next item. So here, learning occurs by using the pump on screen. Finally, in order to move the needle, no pun intended, among diabetes teaching methods, we should be looking for inspiration outside of just diabetes or healthcare. There are some really great lessons learned from apps and programs created for employees and students, consumers wanting to learn new skills or languages. So let's take a quick look at some examples, and I encourage you to think about how these could be applied to the diabetes community. Our first example is from a company called Edie Puzzles. Edie Puzzles is a hybrid of videos and interactive quizzes. It gives users the opportunity to create interactive video lessons that other viewers can access. The creator will decide when the video will pause and questions will appear. And the video lesson will pause until the question is answered correctly. An explanation also appears after the question is answered. Now, what I want you to notice is there's a rewatch button at the bottom, so viewers can go back and watch a particular section before answering the question. Edie Puzzles is not focused on what's right or wrong, but rather what gives the viewer additional time to review information to ensure optimal learning and mastery.
In this film, we're going to explain how your body processes the food you eat in order to provide all your body cells with the energy they need. And also what happens when you have diabetes and this system doesn't work properly. When you eat food that contains carbohydrate, it's broken down in the stomach and digestive system into glucose, which is a type of sugar. We need glucose from food because that's what gives us energy.
Okay, question comes, you need to answer it. I'm not sure, I'm going to rewatch it.
When you eat food that contains carbohydrate, it's broken down in the stomach and digestive system into glucose, which is a type of sugar. We need glucose from food because that's what gives us energy.
It's glucose. Okay. Next and last on the list here of examples is a company called Duolingo. It's a popular language learning app for both kids and adults. It's interactive lessons and games, and the app it releases new words and grammatical concepts for you to learn after you show that you've comprehended a prior lesson. So I hear it's quite addictive, but and it's very fun. I'm going to play the video and then we'll be back in a second.
Yo soy una niña.
Yo soy una niña. Now, yo is the Spanish word for I, and soy is the word am. So if you're saying what you are, it's a being word. So I am una niña. We know that niña is girl, so I am a girl. Una is a girl. If in Duolingo, when you're doing this on your own, if you need a little help or you don't know a word and you just want to go through it,
Niña.
you can always hover over the word
Yo.
and it will give you a clue and pronounce it for you.
Yo soy una niña.
Yo soy una niña.
I love that. You notice how conversational the tone was? It's so inviting and relatable. The other great thing here is that you can hover over a word if you're unclear about the word or its meaning. And it's good because it's not pure immersion teaching and someone explaining things in your own language along the way. This is really unique here. I think that this concept could be really interesting if it were used in if training, let's say, for a pump or a new product, where you could hover over a new term, let's say, or another process or its steps. So something to give you all to think about. Now, it's your turn. Okay. And we are going to have you all stay at the tables in which you're at. There should be up to 5 people at each table. And in just a second, we're going to start brainstorming among your table groups. First thing we need you to do is, as a group, to choose one scribe to be in charge of taking notes and leading the whiteboard session, which I'll explain in just a moment. With your group, we're going to have you spend the first 5 minutes exploring what struck you about these materials. Then we're going to have you spend 5 more minutes narrowing it down to 3 to 5 traits that you found most powerful. At the 10-minute mark, we'll prompt you all to shift to ideation or brainstorming mode, and really want you to think about what we could create along these lines for diabetes training or product support. Finally, we'll reconvene. I'll hop back on stage, and then I'm going to invite someone from a group to share what they came up with. For that portion, you can use the hand raise feature at the bottom of your screen to volunteer and share. So to facilitate the brainstorming, we're going to use this cool feature. It's called the whiteboard, and it's in the Remo platform. Again, once I get off stage and you're back at your tables, you'll see a whiteboard icon like this in the menu at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and click on that to open this sort of sandbox where you're all going to write, draw, and share ideas with the people at your table. Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to get off stage now, which means you will all automatically be dropped into video chat with those at your table. Be sure to turn on your mic and your camera so you can all communicate.